Hey, job seekers, Melanie here. Thanks for joining us. Usually we do these sessions during the day, trying to help with as much as we can for job seekers, giving you advice on what we're seeing coming up. But we got a lot of requests saying that people really needed something at a later hour. So that's what our team is here late at night trying to get to work to be able to give you more information at a different way. So tonight we're going to be covering, oh my goodness, LinkedIn just completely changed the game in LinkedIn Recruiter, not only for all of us that are in HR and recruiting, but also for all of you job seekers. And again, you don't get to see any of these kind of changes. So I'm going to show them to you tonight live in LinkedIn Recruiter so you can see exactly what changed and help to give you advice. We have been busy testing, trying to see exactly what has gone on and how best for you to show up in all of the searches. I put out a call at the end of the day yesterday for some job seekers saying, hey, who could help me test this? And a huge group of you immediately stepped forward and said, hey, we'll help. And so a bunch of you got on a video call with me this morning and we sat and tested things through. And then my team and I spent more time during the day today testing to try and refine it down. So I hopefully have some good tips for you today. I'm going to ask you to please, if you haven't yet, consider subscribing to our channel. It does help us. We try our best to get all this information out there to job seekers, but how a lot of that happens is through you. So if you feel like this data is helpful, please put a like out at it, share it with other job seekers, subscribe to it, follow us on LinkedIn and other social media. All of that helps us to spread the word and help job seekers. Tonight is all about you, though. So while I do have things that I definitely want to cover for you that I've seen that have changed, I want you to be able to ask the questions that you don't get a chance to ask. And if I know the answer, we're going to give you the data right now. If I don't know the answer and it's something I can test quickly, I will test it quickly live for you. Or if not, we'll capture the question and we'll get back to you with an answer. So we really are trying to make this as best as we possibly can so it helps your job search. We really are all in this together. I can see a lot of people have already joined. That's fantastic. And I can see there's a lot of questions coming in. As always, Maureen is behind the scenes managing the chat and doing a lot of work for us, trying to make sure that she, as always, keeps me on track. Now, you may have seen today, her profile shows open to work. Maureen is not open to work. Nobody's allowed to take her from our team. But we did that so we could test and show you a bunch of things tonight on this call that will help you to get a better understanding of what's changed and what has not changed. Okay, so I'm going to start by actually taking you through some of the things that we see that are different on LinkedIn Recruiter. So let me go ahead and share my screen for you. And there we go. Okay, so this you can see is just regular LinkedIn. This is, how my profile looks on LinkedIn. But what I'm going to show you is how it looks on LinkedIn Recruiter. And I'm sorry, of course, just because we're having a live event, I have a little bit of a cough going on. Okay, so if for those of you that have been watching with me for a while and all the videos and stuff, I've shown LinkedIn Recruiter before, but specifically want to be showing you more today is what has changed. And the biggest thing that really affects, I've invited a bunch of my HR peers and recruiters and such onto this call. LinkedIn this week made a change and gave us no notice. They completely changed the way that we're going to search, and they didn't tell us how to get the data that we need to be able to find you. And that's just not ideal. Now, my team was actually on a training call today with LinkedIn, talking more about talent insights as opposed to LinkedIn Recruiter. And when we were talking about that, the person on the call even said to us, said to the whole group that was there, that they made the changes this week and there are more changes coming. So they're in the process of rolling it out. So stay tuned for details. We'll have another one of these as quick as we can as soon as we see more of these changes occurring. Okay, but let me show you what has changed. One of the biggest ways that recruiters and HR and companies look for you on LinkedIn is through this job title field. It is one of the most important fields. Why? Because if I'm searching for a mechanical engineer, I'm going to say, okay, well, show me other mechanical engineers that are on LinkedIn. And then I'm going to start adding more and more details to find you. So in the past, there's always been radio buttons where I could look and say, show me mechanical engineers that are currently in their jobs or not currently in their jobs. And we don't have that easily anymore. What we have now is this new thing here, which you can see it says can have. We have three options to pick from when we first enter it in, saying that they can have, they must have, or they don't have or doesn't have, this person doesn't have this title of mechanical engineer. So the second that we saw this, of course, me and every other recruiter in the world was like panicked for a second saying, wait a minute, that doesn't let me only look at people that are currently in that job title. So what it did is it made our candidate pool, instead of pulling up 1,000 people, it would pull up 100,000, 1,000,000 people in some job titles. So it was really challenging. I did find that it is still there. So those of you that are my HR and recruiting peers, what they've done is they're trying to force you first on this. But you see up here where the job title is, there's now this additional section. We used to have a different availability thing there, but now what we have is I can choose down here on the preferences, and whoops, it just disappeared on me, sorry. And I can choose people that are currently in that role. Now, I'm showing you this, and I'm going to show you how this works. Don't worry, because I know it's complicated, with an actual person being Maureen that's looking for a job, and how this is still crazy important for you as a job seeker. So what I want to do is switch to looking at Maureen's profile, and I'm going to do a search on her. So here is Maureen right here, and I've had her turn on her open to work, which you can see the banner right there. Now, Maureen is an accounting finance person, but we had her enter a bunch of different job titles underneath her open to work that were very unique, and we did that specifically for testing. So over here in LinkedIn Recruiter, what I've done is I've had the system, because I don't want to share anybody else's private data out on a video feed like this. So what we've done for Maureen is I've had LinkedIn Recruiter show me only her by entering in her name, her last name, and that she's a first connection to me. And so that's why you see her right here. Now you can see Maureen's current job was Director of Operations at CGL Recruiting, but I had her end date her employment, which is something that you do as a job seeker often. You end date your employment to once you lose your job. And so you can see here, Director of Operations. If I now type in and do a search for Director of Operations, watch what happens. Maureen is going to fall out of the search when I change it to current. Now, do we often change it to current? Yes, we absolutely change it to current as recruiters. The reason being is there's too many people that switch jobs, they switch careers. Maybe I was, an engineer at this point in time, but now I'm in manufacturing. Or maybe I started my career as a chemist and then I moved into internal audit. There's all these different changes that people make on their career path. So by looking at current is where we're hoping to see where people are and when I'm recruiting and trying to pull them in. And if you have end dated your title in LinkedIn, you fall out of that search when I choose current. So we have had a video out there for a while, which is how do we get you all back in that search? I am going to, after this call, I'll probably do it tomorrow or this weekend, I'm going to revamp that video for everybody just to re-show how to do it, because it shows screenshots of the old radio buttons. So I will make a new one to show you, but I'm going to show you here how you can do it for those of you that are very tech savvy and can do it even before that video comes out. So what I had Maureen do is, again, under her open to work, I had her enter some additional titles, which are great when I'm searching and open to work, but it doesn't get you into that current. What gets you into that current search is this right here. What we had Maureen do is we had her enter in that she's currently seeking a new role, and under the job title piece of it, up here, she entered in some job titles. And I know that it's zookeeper weird. I'll explain that in a second. So then if I am in LinkedIn Talent Solutions and I am looking for one of those positions, like a medical doctor, and I type that in, and I choose that I want somebody who is current in that role, do you see how Maureen still comes up in the search? That's what I want to have happen for you, job seekers. Even if you end date, you still want to come up in the search. Now, I will tell you, there is a problem as they're still rolling out these things. You should be able to come up in searches where it's that out of work, open to work section. And let me show you what I mean. For Maureen, we entered in her open to work. Let me go back here so I can show it to you. Like mechanical engineer. Do you see that right here? So technically, I should be able to come out here and say mechanical engineer, pull it up. And of course, she's going to fall out of the current or past, but I should be able to have her show up in this open to work. But she doesn't. Did you see that? She should show up in that open to work, and she doesn't. There is a problem there that somehow the code is not connected right as they're implementing these changes. My guess is that there's going to be more changes coming out which are going to correct this. But at the moment, it looks like there's an issue or a problem there. So the focus has to be then for you job seekers on what is in that current job seeker section. So let me show that to you one more time. And I want to give you some further parameters because we did more testing on it. So on that job seeker area where she entered in those other job titles that she's targeting, she actually entered in more than one. And I know this is a little bit small for you to see. So let me come in a little bit. We had her enter in 3 titles: medical doctor, internal auditor. In this case, it was zookeepers. And the reason it's got extra letters here at the end is there's a character limit of how many things you can enter. And so we were testing it to see what is the character limit here? And it is 48. The character limit is 48. So as long as the job titles that you have here are less than 48 characters, it will, or 48 or less, it will pick it up. So let me show you how that, again, is going to pick it up. So medical doctor may be the first one, but the second one of internal auditor, if I enter in internal auditor, again, she's going to fall out of the search at the moment. I'm going to switch it to current. Oh, LinkedIn, just because I want to show it, she's going to fall out of that search. Let me see what happened there. So this is a great example of where we tested this earlier and it worked, and now it's not working. Maureen and I spent a good amount of time earlier today testing this to make sure that it would take, and it would take up to 48 characters when we did it. Let me try it one more time. Let me see if that makes any difference. Yeah, she's falling out of that search. Okay, so we tested it earlier today and it was 48 characters, but now she's falling out of that search, and that is a problem. So we're going to have to continue to test that to see why it's different. The other thing that's very weird for me is we tested it actually this afternoon and it did work. So that makes me feel like they've rolled something else new out. So we'll see what else comes up on the call that we do today. Let me show you this though. As I was just talking with you, I entered in zookeeper sob. Do you see that? And she did come up in that search. So the question is, why is she falling out of the internal auditor and not falling out of the other one? I don't know the answer why that is. We're going to have to, Maureen and I will try again tomorrow and see if we can figure out why it's falling out for internal auditor. Let me try one more time, just because LinkedIn is that way. And let me make sure it doesn't pop up. no matter which one I pick. Yep, no matter which one I pick, she is falling out. No matter how I do this. I can't choose doesn't have her. She's going to. Yep, welcome to the joys of LinkedIn, job seekers. It is so hard for you to navigate the system. You can see how hard it is for us, even when I have the opportunity to test things. And we tested those 3 to make sure that they worked earlier today, and now it doesn't. So at least, here's what my advice would be to you on this field. We definitely found that there was a character limit at 48 characters. Anything we entered over 48 characters did not come up. So I would still try to enter ones up to those 48 characters. I'll try to give you some more guidance as we test it more to see what else we can figure out why that middle one's falling out. But definitely put the one that you're most interested in first. The one that, man, you want to come up when somebody, a recruiter or a company does that current job search, you want to come up in that search. Okay, I'm going to change. I have a whole list of things I want to cover with you tonight, but I do want to be very respectful of your time and the comments that you've put in. So I am going to take a second to go through some of the comments that are here, going all the way back up to the top. So bear with me for just a minute. Let me get there. Let's see. So the first one that I have is Carrie Stiles. I've chosen professional services as my industry. When I view my own post analytics, it appears that LinkedIn may have mapped me to IT services and IT consulting. My SSI stats show professional services. Okay, so LinkedIn told us that they were still going to be making changes on the industry code. And I will tell you, I saw somebody else had sent me information that the LinkedIn recruiter industry codes and the industry codes that are in Sales Navigator, which is one of their other products, are different and are not mapped together yet. So we did test this in addition this afternoon to see if anything had changed on LinkedIn Recruiter. And let me show you that quick using Maureen's profile so I can show you how that works. So let me clear this. So here's Maureen again. Do you see on her profile right here, it shows staffing and recruiting is the primary industry that she chose. When we went down to industry and tried to get her to show up in a variety of different ones, like for example, Maureen in her past has worked in oil and gas. She does not show up in those searches. The only one that we could get her to show up on was when we picked staffing and recruiting, which is the one that mapped to the one that she has right here. So it does still appear that LinkedIn is doing some changes to those industry settings. What I would say is you want that primary one to be the one that's going to be chosen the most. Now, take this all with a grain of salt because we know as recruiters and HR people that it only does that one industry where it comes up in the search. So we tend to use keywords instead. And so if I'm looking for somebody that has a background in oil and gas or oil field services, I may choose to enter that as a keyword as opposed to in the industry search, which is why it's important for you to have those words, those industry type words, someplace on your LinkedIn profile. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can do this more easily organically. One of them is to put it in the about or the summary section. Now, remember, anytime that you're working on LinkedIn, let me go to my profile, and you have that top level about or summary section, it's going to always truncate it. See how it says see more over here? That see more hides everything below, but everything that's underneath there counts in the keyword searches and counts in the skill searches. So one of the things that we recommend on this about summary section for industry is to put something like, I am open to the following industries, and then list 10, 15 industries out there. If you're open to healthcare, but you've never been in healthcare, if you put it in here and somebody enters healthcare as a keyword, you still come up in the search. And I'd always rather have you come up in the search than not. So then at least a person is looking at you as opposed to the search parameters just ruling you out. I hope that answers your question, Carrie. If not, please feel free to put another question and I'll do my best to answer it for you. Okay, let me see who else that we have with our questions. Let's see. Here's our next one, and it is from R. Clark, and it says, how feasible is it for an entry-level person to apply to a role that says entry-level, but also wants 1 to 3 years experience? I love when they do that, right? If it's truly entry-level, it should say 0 to 3 years. You can't tell me there's that much knowledge you can get in 1 year that they couldn't open it to 0 and then try to just hire somebody with the best competencies. Do I think it's feasible for you to apply to that role? Absolutely. Here's whenever I'm giving guidance on which roles should you apply for and which ones you shouldn't, you should always look at a 75% match. And let me explain what I mean to that. So you want to match to the parameters of what's in the job description and the requirements at least 75%. So if they are wanting somebody that has, SAP and Oracle 2 to 4 years, and maybe you have 6 years in one and only 1 year in another, I would still consider that a match. Now, there are some things that are not preferences, but are strong requirements. And an example like that is if they're hiring for a controller and they have said a CPA is required, they're not going to look at you unless you have that CPA, most likely. It's a requirement that they're looking. If you're going for an engineering position that requires a PE license and they're looking for somebody that can sign off on the drawings, you can't do that without a PE license, right? Same thing as if they want an attorney that passed the bar. So there's going to be some levels. But when it's something that's this close with experience, if you feel you have the right competencies and you have other complementary experience, go for it. What do you have to lose? What I don't want you to do is if you're applying for 1,000 jobs a month, you are doing it wrong. If you're applying for 1,000 jobs a month, you are doing it wrong. And in fact, it can completely work against you. What you may not see, let me share my LinkedIn Recruiter, is behind the scenes, when I have somebody that is out here and I have them pulled up, I can choose under my recruiting tools to tag that person. And if we have somebody that applies to absolutely every job, never looks at any of the requirements, after you've looked at that same person 300 times, you can choose to tag them with something. I have a tag that's out there for our group. See this do not represent tag? Oh, I guess you can't see it because there it is. Hold on. See this right here, do not represent? We have that tag specifically when someone has done something like lied on their resume and it was caught during an interview, like they said they worked at GE and they never did, or they put on there they had a master's degree and then we talked to them, they said, well, I really only have a high school diploma. There's some things that will get you marked. If you do something like apply for every single job that Exxon has, I can promise you after a certain point in time, they're going to stop looking at you. So try to make sure you get that 75% match when you're applying. Okay, let's see what other questions we have before I go on to my other group of things. Hello, Arum. Hi, Brooke. Let's see who else we have. Here we go. SKW, what type of posts typically receive the most engagement on LinkedIn, and how can I tailor my content to fit these trends? Okay, I'm gonna say this is a loaded question, and here's why. Is the right thing on LinkedIn to get views and likes, or is the right thing to get seen by who you want to get seen by? If you're a job seeker and you're looking for a job and your post that you do is viewed by 50 other job seekers, but nobody it's going to help you with the hiring, it could help you in building your network, but it may not be targeted enough towards what you're wanting to do. So there are some posts that you can do that will get a ton of engagement, posts that are more emotional focused. And I'm not saying that those are bad, because you can increase your network and get some visibility. But if you are a job seeker, I would like you to think different about your posts. I want somebody to see your post and say, wait a minute, that person has the skills that I'm looking for. Or I want your post to be seen by HR and recruiters and hiring managers. Some strategies as to how you can do that is stop using hashtags that only apply to job seekers. use hashtags that apply to those that are making those decisions. Like if you're going for a chemical process operation position, try doing a hashtag chemical operations or a hashtag chemicals industry, or try using hashtags like hashtag HR, hashtag human resources, hashtag recruiters. And then also, as you're doing these different posts, don't always just think about your news feed. Think about the posts that you do in groups. Now, some groups are better than others. And the ones that tend to be the best are those that are private, moderated groups. And how you get into those groups is having some kind of connection. So, like, for example, for me being an HR person, I could get into the SHRM group or the HRCI group, that are organizations that are part of human resources, or associations, I should say. So when you're in those groups, if you are commenting, replying, or even posting in those groups things that are getting the attention of your peers or the people that can influence a hiring decision about you, that is much more worthwhile to you than doing a post that gets 100,000 views. So I want you to think a little bit different. Don't just think about the likes and all that. Think about the other. Unless you're trying to be a content creator, then you want to follow the social media trends. And I think you can go out and Google that. That's a completely, different thing you're going to want to do. Okay, let's take a look. I think I covered this other one. Let's see. Okay. So, how can I attract more engaged followers on LinkedIn who are generally interested in my content and industry? So, there are two ways that you can, if you're trying to build your network in general. It depends. Now, LinkedIn is really clamped down hard on how many invites you can send out depending on your different level. It is sometimes easier to have people approach you than it is necessarily for you always to approach them, because you are going to run out of invites. The best way to do that, if you want people to follow you, is doing content that meets their need at that point in time. So, for example, if you're trying to get the attention of job seekers, you want to be able to give them solutions, not just other data that's random. If you're trying to get them to follow you, if you're trying to get marketing people to follow you, go out and share an article that's something new on AI and marketing and how it's being used. So try to meet the needs of that audience to get them specifically to follow you is always a better bet. Okay, let's see. Let me make sure. This one is, any tips for someone with prior experience in career break who wishes to re-enter? So there are some companies that have programs to help you re-enter the workforce. Dell was a big company that did this, where they're specifically targeting people who are trying to come back into the workforce. So if you do some Google searches on this, you will find that. The biggest question that you're going to be asked if you've taken any kind of career break and you're trying to get a new job and move in is, what did you do to keep your skills current? What did you do to stay up to speed with the software, the laws that govern what you're doing, the best practices? And so the way that LinkedIn showed you how to do that was with the career break feature. Do not use LinkedIn's career break feature. LinkedIn's career break feature is in fact broken. And I can show you that right now. Let me show you on my profile. I'm going to take out your question for a second. So we actually were testing this, and I have it in here because we have a LinkedIn ticket open about it. On my profile, we entered this full-time parenting career break for the help ticket that we were trying to test it. You can see it comes before my time at New Park and after my time at Green Tweed. And so that was put there by LinkedIn to say, we want you to be able to show those employers what you did during that career break, and that it's not just a big gap, that there was something there. The problem is, and this problem still remains today, if you go over and you look, let me pull it up. Here's my profile on LinkedIn Recruiter. If you go into my profile on LinkedIn Recruiter, here is my time at New Park, and here is my time at Green Tweed. So in between these two should be the career break, which you see over in the other session, over on the other, but it doesn't show up here. And that's because they never connected the code in the back of LinkedIn. They said, hey, we want recruiters to be able to see this data. And then they hid it from recruiters in LinkedIn Recruiter. And I promise you, once a recruiter and HR person, and they're in there and they're working in LinkedIn Recruiter, they're not going back and forth checking your other profile, because all the data that's on your public profile is supposed to be on your LinkedIn Recruiter profile. So do not use that career break feature. We do have a workaround for this. Maureen, if you could please attach that video in the comments, or you can find it on our YouTube channel that says do not use the LinkedIn career break feature, and it'll show you how to enter a job break in there without using that. So you do not have that issue of it not showing up. It's crazy that doesn't work. Okay. Let me go and see some of the other questions before I go on to what we're doing. Okay. This one is LinkedIn using the open to work flag or the banner on the photo. So that is a choice that you have as a job seeker as to whether or not you use that. Let me show you how that goes on and off, and I'll tell you why you should be using it. There's two ways that LinkedIn created the out of work. And if you go up and turn on, if I say, okay, I am open to finding a new job, I'm going to pull myself out of this so you can see my full screen. Hold on one sec. There we go. Okay, when you go in here, and let's say that I was looking for a vice president role, right, of HR. I'll just put vice president. When I come down to the end of it, it gives me an opportunity of what I want to do in visibility. This first option here does not put the green banner. The second option does. If you are currently working a job, you want to choose this one because you don't want people in your current company to know that you're looking for a job. And in fact, that's why LinkedIn created this. So for this one here, if you choose this, if you read the fine print, it's limited to people using LinkedIn Recruiter. And they do it specifically because they're trying to hide that you've turned this on from people at your current company. This one down here turns on that green banner, but everybody can see it. And when I say everybody can see it, I mean that it's not just people that have LinkedIn Recruiter. It's maybe companies that are utilizing LinkedIn Premium for their recruiting needs. Can you do that? Yeah, you can. So, I mean, I wish everybody could afford LinkedIn Recruiter. It's crazy expensive how much we spend on LinkedIn Recruiter. It's ridiculous. But it's the only one that really is out there that lets you get to both active and passive candidates. There is no other system like it. So it is important that you do consider turning that on so everybody can see it. Now, LinkedIn has done studies on this, and they have shown that when you turn that on, you have a better chance or you get a job faster. And it's attributed to the fact that you are you're notifying your network constantly that you're looking for a job. The best way to find a job always has been, always will be through someone you know. And when you turn it on, your network may have forgotten that you told them that you're looking for a job, but every time they see you comment out there, they come across your profile, they're reminded, oh, I forgot that Melanie's looking for a job. Let me make this connection. And that's a reason that you definitely want to turn this on. Do not listen to people. I know you get so much bad advice, job seekers. Do not listen to people that won't give you any facts, that won't go back and show you a study. If they tell you, oh, it makes you look desperate, my question to them is, what are you basing that on? What are you possibly, don't be pulling fear-mongering statements out of the air and giving it to job seekers and thinking that's okay. If you're giving job seekers advice, you had darn well better be giving them facts. Don't fall for the other. Okay, I'm going to get off my rant now. Okay, let's see. Let me ask you, why does one person have X and I might not have X? Does this make sense? I'm not sure I understand. I'm going to need you to put a little extra comment out there that I can try to hopefully answer your question. The only thing I will tell you is LinkedIn is infamous for rolling things out in not all at once, but at certain points in time. And so, for example, the open to work for some people still looks different, which is why sometimes you'll see people on their open to work, it says, what I'm looking for in a company: medical benefits, dental, 401k. There's a subset of the population that still has that old open to work. LinkedIn, I wish you would just do it all to everybody. Okay. Arun has a question. This is great information. Thank you. I have a question on location. Why is it Greater Houston instead of Houston? Do you think changing location will help job seekers? Oh my gosh, yes. This is a great point, Arun. So we actually did a video on this very recently on the locations. LinkedIn has, for larger cities, I think they were trying to help and it's backfired. What they've done, if you have larger cities, there's more than one location that you can choose. And let me show you an example of this. Let me close this. Give me 1 second and I'll get there. Okay. So when you have this location that's here, if I go over into LinkedIn Recruiter, you'll see for Houston, there is Houston, Texas, or there is also Greater Houston. Do you see those two options? Now, here's the hard part. LinkedIn doesn't tell you what's part of Greater Houston and what's part of regular Houston. Now, there is a search parameter that, for those of you that are in HR and recruiting on this call, these locations of just using the city are getting less and less valuable because so many job seekers are confused about which one to pick. What I have tell job seekers nowadays, the best advice of what you should pick is don't pick Metroplex, Greater Houston, any of those. Pick the actual city. Because if a recruiter is in a different city than you are, or state than you are, they may not even be aware of the different things. And so chances are they're just going to pick the main one, as opposed to picking, like Dallas has Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, Fort Worth. I mean, there's a million for Dallas. I don't know what they were thinking. So choose the main city. But if you're on recruiting or HR and you're trying to search, I'm going to show you a different way that I think people forget about. And that is, you can definitely search by the location here, but you can also go down to the advanced search options. And we have all job seekers, we have all these other ways to slice and dice LinkedIn. And so here, do you see this one that's got postal code or zip code for the US? And so what I can do is I can enter a postal code, 388 Spring, Texas, and then I can choose, there we go. I can choose within what area I want to look. Do I want to look within 1 mile of that location? Do I want to look within 200 miles? And sometimes when you're searching that way, it's easier because that is pulled from when people originally create their profile, they have to enter in a zip code. And when they enter in that zip code, that's what chooses the Houston, Greater Houston, things like that. So if you're in recruiting or HR, you might want to start working off zip code in the US rather than the other. If you're trying to recruit, if you're outside the US and you're trying to recruit in the US, it's really easy to Google a zip code map. Just do US zip code map or Houston zip code map or Texas zip codes, whatever you're trying to do, and it'll pull it up super easy, and try searching that way. I hope that helps. If you want more information on location and other best practices, we do have a video that we just did recently on that. Okay, Stephen Cox has come up with a suggestion. I'm going to try your suggestion. We're going to test this live. Stephen is talking about, he says, add the comma. I don't think that's it, Stephen, but if it is, you get the gold star for the night. He is talking about how I was trying to get Maureen to come up here, see on the internal auditor. He's saying do that. Oh, Stephen, you win. Okay, Stephen wins. So what does this tell us? I need to make a note of that. Okay, Stephen, you win the prize. Stephen, if you are a job seeker and are looking for your next job, you do win a prize. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to say our firm offers one-on-one coaching sessions where we do a lot of private searching on LinkedIn Recruiter to help you see where you fall in and out. reach out to me or Maureen on LinkedIn, Stephen, and we will get you signed up for one of those sessions 100% free. And for just finding that, we will get you in a session where you can spend an hour and we'll see where you're falling in and out of searches. Thank you for showing us that or bringing that up. So to just recap, now I'm going to give you another best practice on this then. And we used to do this, but we don't anymore. It shouldn't be this way that the comma, excuse me, made a difference here, but it does. It doesn't seem to make a difference with medical doctor, right? If I go out here and I clear this and I type in medical doctor, you can see that Maureen comes up, right? And if I type in that zoo keeper with all those extra things out there, there it goes. You can see that it comes up. But somehow for internal auditor, it wants you to also include that comma when they're doing the search. Now, the problem is the recruiters are not going to do that. They are never going to do that. So what would be a best practice for you? Let me do it again. I would say put a space between the word and the comma in the middle one. Now that is going to count as one of your characters in the character limit. Maureen, while we're talking and going on other things, will you go into your profile and add a space after auditor, between auditor and comma, and then we'll come back and we'll retest that in a little bit. Just tell me in the comments when you got it done and we'll do it. But Stephen, good job. Great job, Stephen. Okay, let's go to our next person. Julie Hayes, I was laid off in June 2023. Do I need to create a current job with my title so I show up in current searches? Absolutely, yes. You absolutely do. If you've end dated it, you are going to fall out. So please make sure you do that. It is one of the things that drives me most insane because it doesn't matter how amazing and wonderful you are, how much skills and experience, it's not the recruiter's fault. It's the system that's knocking you out. So please, please do that, Julie. Okay, so John said, do you have a new resume template or is it the 2022 one the most current? We actually have a slightly tweaked resume template, and we actually have a video that's out here on our YouTube that we just haven't hit live yet because we had a hiccup in the middle of the filming of the video. So bear with us and I will try to get that out on Monday. And as always, those templates are completely free. The 2022 template we did come out with earlier will work. I'm just going to explain a couple of the things and tell you what's changed in that video with the way the applicant tracking systems are now processing your resume. So John, stay tuned for details. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel and ring the bell, it will tell you when that video comes out, but I will do my best to get it out next week. It was supposed to come out this week. We just had a video fail error that went and happened in the middle of it. Okay. Okay, good job. So Carrie's already got her industry incorporated in her about section. That's fantastic. Okay. Listen, I'm going to take a second. I know we've got a lot of other questions in, but I want to cover some other things. We're about 45 minutes in. I want to tell you something that came up that is very, very, I think, critical for you to start considering as you're looking at your job search. We, on this call that we were on today, this training session, and it had people that use LinkedIn Recruiter across the world, and they were giving us more details. They've released this new thing called Talent Insight, which they've given for free at this point to everybody within LinkedIn Recruit that has LinkedIn Recruiter. And it gives us a lot of other flexibility to do things, but that's one of the reasons they've made a lot of these changes back on LinkedIn Recruiter. And from that call and from all the changes we're seeing, they're trying to push away from job title. I don't love that, but they are trying to kind of push away a little bit from job title and trying to get us recruiters, companies, everybody else focused on skills, which we were focused on skills anyway, right? I mean, you can't just hire somebody based on a job title, right? We enter in tons of skills when we're searching. But I think they're even more important. These are some screenshots of data that came from today. This is from that LinkedIn Talent Solutions training. And they wanted to you say, we want you to search like experts in this LinkedIn Talent Insights, which works a little bit different than LinkedIn Recruiter. And again, they're trying to push very heavily, instead of starting with job title specifically, use the skill or the function feature to see what job titles fall into your talent pool. Now, you can't do anything about function yet. I'll talk about that later as they give out more guidance on that. But the skill, you definitely can. And you can even see, again, when they're talking, to this international audience, they said, we recommend starting with a country level search to get a macro view. Start by filtering using skill. And I wanted to make sure and bring that up with you guys, because I've always tried to tell everybody more is more on your LinkedIn profile. And that's about to get even more important. When we talk about skills, I don't want you to feel like skills are only what shows in the skills section of your profile. We're very used to, when we talk about skills, going down to the section. Let me show you mine. Down here where you have like the 50 skills that are entered. But when I actually do a search on LinkedIn Recruiter, if I enter in a skill and I say I'm looking, for somebody that has team building, I don't know, or leadership. Let me pull leadership. Yeah. If I pull that and I go in, it's not going to just pull it from that one part. Do you see how in here it pulled leadership from this part of my profile? So the skills section is not just pulling from the skill list that you put in there. It's pulling from every other part of your profile where there is text. So because of that, once again, more is more. Now, most of us are still limited to 50 skills. LinkedIn has said you can put up to 100 skills now, and some people already have that ability to do that, but not a whole lot. Most of them, it's still in process of rolling out, and you're still limited to the 50. It's okay. It doesn't matter. Load up that about section with your skills. Load up things that you did underneath all of those different jobs. Don't worry about it being too much data. LinkedIn is going to truncate that data, right? They're going to have that little see more. So I, as a recruiter, as an HR person, I'm never going to be overwhelmed by you having too much data in there, because it's going to truncate it. You're trying to catch our attention enough that we're asking for your resume, or we're asking you to apply, or sending you a job posting. And the applicant tracking system, which is LinkedIn Recruiter, is going to immediately search everything on your profile, even if it's truncated and hidden under the see more. The only thing that it does not search is attachments. So if you have attached your resume there, if you have attached like a presentation under your featured section, it's not going to search those. But any place where there's text on your profile, it counts as a skill. And really quick, because we were out there and it showed, I do want to just make sure that we're all on the same page. LinkedIn has actually done away with, it still says skills and assessments, but they announced a little bit ago that they've done away with the assessments. So you can't go out there and take them anymore. So don't stress about those assessments anymore. I actually loved them. I thought it was a great thing. I don't know why they chose to do away with it, but they did. Okay, let's go back to your questions and we can go on from there. Let's see. Carrie, I recently attended a YouTube session where the LinkedIn guru said that we should only choose the title that matches the closest in the drop-down box. Otherwise, we fall out of searches. Okay, so your job title has to be one that's close enough to what the person's going to enter, but it doesn't have to be exact. And let me show you why. On LinkedIn Recruiter, if I come out here, I'm going to hide your question, Carrie, just so we can see more of the screen. If, let's say, I am looking for, hold on. There we go. Sorry, had a moment where my system just was going crazy. Okay, let's say I'm out here on the job titles and I'm trying to enter human resources manager. You see on the left-hand side, let me come up a little bit. Do you see these little dots and lines? If I click on that, when the person is entering in this job title of human resources manager, the system is trying to say, okay, well, a lot of people have labeled it a little different. I'm going to try and help you, recruiter sourcer, and pull up similar job titles. So, in addition to anybody with that job title, anybody that has one of these 32 job titles is also going to come up in the search. That's where LinkedIn is doing their best to help you. So if you had field human resources manager and I searched for human resources manager, don't feel like you're going to drop out of that search. You're not. It's still going to pull you up. The only way you would drop out of the search is if I unclicked one of these. But otherwise, you're still going to come up in the search. Now, can I force it to not do that? I can. I can say instead of choosing, okay, you can see right here, human resources manager with the dots. I can force it to show me exactly just that and only that. I don't know many recruiters that do that because we realize there's too much variability on job titles. My goodness, you go to one company and a job is a VP, and the next company it's an individual contributor. It's there's no standardization. So we like the fact that it does that in the system. So I wouldn't worry that much. I do think you do need to normalize your title to some way, in that if your title, the example I give all the time is a big company used to call certain team members Tiger team members. Nobody's ever going to search for a Tiger team member. Come on. But what they will do is search for maybe a procurement manager that was part of a Tiger team. So they'll search in procurement manager if that was what your function was. So then translate it on your LinkedIn profile. Put your title as project procurement manager, and then put it down below. I was a Tiger team member, focused specifically on procurement. So you're explaining that out. But it does help you, at least LinkedIn does with the job titles. I think that's why, too, they're going so hard towards the trying to get the skills versus the job title. It's just, it gives us talent pools that are just too huge. I don't see the recruiting world ever going away from using the job titles. Okay, let me go back up a little bit and we'll see what other questions I may have missed. Hopefully I didn't miss. If I did, please let me know. Let's see. Oh my gosh, I got to go up quite a bit. Sorry, I'm trying to get it. Can you show we put, so there was the, can you show where we put the job titles in our profiles? Yes. Okay, so a great example of Maureen did it. What you're doing, if you've end dated your current job, where do you put those job titles? It's in the job title field. So if I was to do it from scratch, hold on one sec. Let's see. There we go. If I was to do it from scratch, let me go to my profile and let's say that I was adding a new section. See under the experience area here, do you see how I'm going to pull myself out of it so you can see this a little better? There we go. Okay, do you see up here there's this plus symbol? If you click on this plus symbol, you can add a position. Don't use the career break. Add the position. And so then when I add the position, I can add, like we did for Maureen, we added like medical doctor. I can't spell, sorry. Medical doctor was one of the ones that we added for her. And then we could put like internal auditor. Now, you don't have to enter all of these things. Just enter the ones that it requires you to enter. Under company name, you can just put like currently seeking. You'll see that there's a ton of people that have already done this. We've been giving this advice now for several years, and I think other people have too, thankfully. Just choose any one of them. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. You don't even have to put a location or a type. You just have to put that you're currently working in that role. And then you do have to give it a start date. So I can say like February of 2024. And then when I hit save, it's going to add it to my profile the same way it added this to Maureen's profile. I hope that answers your question, Stephen. If not, let me know, and I will go back through and see if I can cover that a little bit more in depth for you. Okay. So Frank Perez, Kevin Turner, he said only one title, make sure it matches the drop down. Well, we saw that we can do more than one title. So you can do one title if you want. If you have a title that you think is called different things, I don't think there's anything wrong with adding more than one. I would much rather have you come up in more searches than less. So as many as it will let you come up in, I would do up to that 48 character limit. Okay. Am I the only one that has only 5 invitations per month? I had to send an invite without why I want to connect with them. Yeah, LinkedIn's being really cheap on how many invites they're giving you nowadays. Remember, anybody who has that LinkedIn Gold symbol, has that LinkedIn Premium, you have the ability to send them an email for free, and that does not count as one of your invites. So use that a little bit more. Generally, most recruiters have that because they have it with LinkedIn Recruiter and such. Generally, they want you to be able to email them and send them. Same thing with the HR people that have access to the system. So feel free to use that if you can't do the other connections. I do wish LinkedIn gave you more. I'll also tell you, it drives me insane that LinkedIn still limits you at 30,000 connections. You know, they're all good with the followers, but followers works different than connections. For those of you that have tried to connect with me, I am maxed out. I'm at the 30,000, and so I can take more followers, but I can't take connections until, you know, eventually people drop off, they retire or whatever, or they get off LinkedIn. But I wish totally they gave you more invites. It's crazy. Okay. Maureen did link out here the video that does show about the career break feature. So if you need that, you can make sure and get to that out there. Okay, here's a great question. If I'm a job seeker, how can I increase my personal brand? I love that you're thinking about a personal brand. It's hard as a job seeker to stand out from all of the other job seekers that are out there. There are definitely some ways that I recommend you do that. One is more of a subliminal messaging way, and let me show you that. On your profile, you have this section that's up at the top. This is called your banner section. And this is a great way that a lot of individuals have used for their profile. Let me show you mine, which is very similar to Maureen's. Up here on the profile, you can add and adjust this banner, and that helps to give you a brand. You choose a picture that you feel like is appropriate. You know, if you're in IT, maybe you're choosing one that's got circuits on it. If you're in engineering, maybe you're choosing ones that has, you know, old blueprint drawings or something, but something that kind of attaches to you. And then don't put your name, don't put, you know, your email address, please, for spam's sake, but put some words that describe you. And this is a place where it's never going to be used by the search features. It's something that's only going to be viewed by a person. So this is a place where you can put something that draws to a person more. You're not worried about a keyword that's going to come up in a search. So you can choose to do something, you know, like established project manager or worldwide leadership or something that's a competency that shows something special about you. That is one way that you can build your brand. The other way to build your brand is LinkedIn gives you the ability when you put different jobs out there to attach things to those jobs that show some of your work, what you've done, things that you've accomplished. Utilize those. When somebody is very interested in you, when I'm interested in a candidate, that's things that I will click through and see, are they going down the right path? Do they have the right level of engineering skills for what I'm looking for? You know, do they have the SOX compliance that I'm really looking for based on some past work that they did? Of course, don't do anything that you're going to violate any IP or anything, but do things that help show your brand. And then the next thing is get involved. Get involved with your posts and your comments, not only in the main feed, but in groups. If you're an HR, you should be doing things in SHRM. If you're a mechanical engineer, maybe it's in ASME or SPE. Try to attach to the groups where your brand is going to carry more value, and do comments and do posts out there to help connect with that. I love love that you're thinking of an employment brand as opposed to I'm just another job seeker going to apply for everything. Once you know who you are, it is easier to find a job. Absolutely. Okay, let's see. In your experience, what are the qualities that have made specific candidates stand head and shoulder above the other 500 that have applied for the same job? Okay, let's talk about what makes them stand up in the beginning of the process, and then let's talk about what makes them stand out in the end of the process. Whether we like to admit it or not, unless you're going through a network where this person is putting your resume in front of a hiring manager, in the beginning part of the process, what makes it so difficult for job seekers is there are all of these systems that you have to get through. And so the ones that are able to get found in the searches and actually come up are the ones that have a better chance. The ones that are actually able to have a resume, a cover letter, a LinkedIn profile that gives all of the information about what they bring special to the table that comes up in all these searches is unfortunately what's important. That very, very quickly changes at the next part where you're most likely speaking, unless it's a very small company, but if it's a larger company, the next part, you're probably speaking with somebody that's like a recruiter or a sourcer, somebody who's trying to vet you out to see if you make it to the next level. So are they going to be doing some competency assessments of you at that point in time? Of course, they're going to be doing some competency assessments on things like communication skills and different competencies, but usually those only last for about an hour. And during that hour, they're trying to get through all the questions to see if there's something they're going to knock you out, which is why they're asking you questions like what salary range are you targeting for your next role? Trying to see, are you way above the salary? Can you confirm your education for me? Can you tell me about why you left this company and went to this company? They're trying to understand your journey and your path still at that very entry level sourcer recruiter role, because they're trying to see, is there kind of like a fatal flaw to stop you from moving forward? At the end of their interview, they start getting to more of the behavioral based questions where you really get to shine. Tell me about a time where your company was having a challenge in the supply chain. How did you address it? And what was the end result? And that's where they're trying to see more about your more in-depth competencies. So that's that next part. Now we get to the part where I wish I could say it was just one more interview and you were hired, but we all know that that's not quite how it works nowadays. Some companies are doing 8, 9 interviews, ridiculous, but some companies are doing tons of interviews. So when we get to that next point where they're doing it, that's where they're digging in deeper on your competencies. What if it's a people manager position? What is your leadership style? What trips people up at that next thing? If you're not detailed enough, then people get concerned that you're just quoting them what they want to hear. I get that a lot of times. Well, they didn't really give me, they said, oh yeah, well, everybody does that with this. And I couldn't get the details from them. I didn't have confidence that they actually did this. Now, there are other things that can trip you up. Like if you're going for a leadership role and the whole time you're saying, well, I did this, I did this, I did this. Then they get concerned. Well, did your team do anything? Were you leading your team? Are you a micromanager? So there are other concerns in that. But what I see trip up most in the end, more than anything else, is people not giving thought out, detailed responses that do cover, here's the situation, here was the issue or problem, here's how we addressed it, and here was the end result. Here was the end result. I hope that helps, Richard. We do have a set of questions and answers that we have on our YouTube channel that breaks down all the interview questions. Here's a question. Here's what they're looking for when they're asking it. And here's some best examples of how you can best answer this question or how you should be focusing the answer that you're giving. I hope that helps. Okay. Here's the thing. I could connect to strangers blindly cold without a personalized invite, but I feel first impressions are lasting impressions. They are, right? So I think you need to be strategic about this. If you know you only have 5 invites, you want to use those 5 invites for the ones that impression makes the most difference. If you're just connecting with another job seeker that is just somebody that you're connecting with that's in the same boat as you, but you feel like it's not going to cause you a problem, you may not need to do that. So it's so difficult. They only give you 5. Let's see. As I mentioned, I'm currently looking for a job. How would you feel if you were my potential manager? I don't know, other than the fact that I appreciate all the questions that you've asked, that you've been on topic. I think that your questions are well thought out, but I don't know yet. Let's see. Are there returnship programs for women returners? Absolutely. In fact, a lot of them came into being, like we talked about the Dell one, trying to lure people back in from maternity leave. COVID, man, did we have a huge exodus of talent from the talent pool with COVID. People figured out that they can make it, they can retire and make it on what they have set for retirement or Social Security or whatever. And we lost a population that retired early, that companies are trying to get those individuals back because there was so much knowledge that went out the door. And it's, it's so strange to me because you see them doing that, trying to say, hey, come back for this returnship. And then there's all these people that are out on the market that do have 30 and 40 years and they want to pay them like an entry level. So it's one of those, great things, good, there should be a better answer than what there is for that. Let's see. Okay. Carrie says, my profile allows for Henderson or Metro Las Vegas, Nevada, but my business page only allows Henderson or Las Vegas, Nevada, not Metro. That was, I don't know if you heard me talking earlier, the Sales Navigator industries are different. I think it's different too because Sales Navigator uses those company pages more than LinkedIn Recruiter does. So I think it's a mismatch between the LinkedIn Recruiter and the LinkedIn Sales Navigator systems as to why you're seeing that difference. Unfortunately, not the greatest thing. Let's see. So Adam says, if I'm trying to relocate and find a job in another state, say Baltimore, Maryland, to Houston, Texas, what is the best way to set up your profile to get a position? So if you are trying to do that, I actually recommend you switch your location, switch your primary location, and just very quickly on in the conversation, let them know I am planning on relocating to Houston in the future, which is why I'm targeting a role there. Why do I say that? Because most people look local first when their company's recruiting. Nobody wants to pay relocation unless they have to pay for relocation. And Houston is a 4th largest city. It's a much bigger market than Baltimore is. Baltimore's up there, but it's not as big as Houston. So I would switch your primary location to Houston now and just make sure very clearly when you talk to them, you tell them that you're planning on relocating to Houston in the future. Now, I'm going to tell you another thing, which I know that the recruiters are completely different than they used to be, right? We all used to have a Rolodex of people. Nowadays, recruiters don't work that way. And so that's why you all get very frustrated when you reach out to recruiters and say, help me find a job. And the recruiter's like, I got to put food on my table. I have to work the work that I'm given, and I can't just work to help you find a job. They're not paid that way. They don't get paid by the candidates, and it shouldn't be that way. They get paid more than enough from the clients. But so unfortunately, that causes the issue of you want to reach out to recruiters and get them to help you find a job. They're demotivated to do so because it takes money away from their bottom line because they have to work on the jobs that they're supposed to be filling. So it usually does not work for you to just I want to go to this new city. I'm going to connect with a bunch of recruiters in that area. It is different if you're looking for temporary jobs, if you're going to a staffing agency. So, for you having 20 years in IT, I can't think, Adam, you're going to be doing that. There are some recruiting companies that do specialize in certain cities. And so you might just want to be on their radar, but you may feel like a number. So for you coming to Houston, I would go Search Technology is one, or Robert Half does a lot of IT. Does my firm do IT? We do, but it's not a huge focus for us. Those are ones that are going to be more focused. And if you're in IT, LinkedIn is fantastic. Always use LinkedIn. It's absolutely the behemoth in the recruiting market. But in IT, you need to make sure you're on Dice, because Dice remains for the IT community very, very strong in that recruiting and placement. Okay, let's see. Frank Perez says, so we're going to need a comma. No, I don't think you do. I think you're going to need or unless you're saying space, then comma. Nobody is ever going to enter it searching for you with that comma. So I will make sure when we do put out a video on this that we'll show you 3 ways, but don't put a comma right after. Try putting a space and a comma. Maureen, let me check Maureen's profile and see if she fixed that yet for me. Dun, dun, dun. No, Maureen, if you get a chance, can you go into your profile? Let's do this. You know what? Let Maureen and I test this offline. Let's test it offline, so I'm not wasting your time as we're figuring out and testing it. But we will test it. We do. Don't worry, guys. I promise. Okay. Let me go on to this question, and then I'm going to go back to my list of stuff because we're about an hour and 10 minutes. And I do have a hard stop at 2 hours, so I can go home and spend some time with my kiddos, as can Maureen. Okay, so Carrie has, is the verbiage for the specific skill the same across all places skills can be used, i.e. cross-functional leadership versus cross-functional leader? So it's not. And here's the issue. When they're searching for skills, let me see if I can show this to you a little bit too. I'm going to pull your question out, Carrie, and I'm going to pull me out just so you can see this a little bit better. Okay, when I am over here, let me pull this out too. If I'm searching in the skill section of it, oops, I pulled everything out. Let's do that. That's better. Okay, if I'm searching in the skill section, which is this right here, and I enter in a skill like cross-functional leadership, it's going to try and give me an answer. See how it came right here, cross-functional team leadership? And if I do that, it's going to look for that. But you can see even now they have these must have, can have, doesn't have. I don't know why this is like ridiculous. If I don't want that skill, I'll take it off. I mean, I guess you could hide something if you didn't want anybody that had a certain word. I don't know. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so it's going to try and give me that. But I can always choose instead to come down to the keywords. And I can always choose to do a Boolean search. So I can do cross, like N, functional, and leader. Whoops, I spelled leader wrong. And do a search that way where it's trying to find all of those different words. And just like Boolean searches work in other systems, it works exactly the same way on LinkedIn Recruiter. I can Boolean search as much as I want and say and or if and things like that, which help me to find you. So unfortunately, it's unless they choose it from that drop-down list, it's very much about how the recruiter enters it. Now, when you have a billion profiles out there, there's a ton of different ways people enter everything. And so for us, we know that. And so we tend to try different things to see what's going on. There are so many. Let me show you all of these search things. So there's, again, all of these search filters here on the left-hand side that you see me scrolling through. And there's also all of these search filters. And in those search filters, there's even ways that I have projects and notes that I've done and tags. So there's other data that's even in there that I can utilize as well when I'm trying to find you. So there's no way you can come up with every answer, but the recruiters are trying to do their best to find you. I know it's hard. Okay. Let's see. Julie Hayes, if you're unemployed and putting in a job seeking role with your title, what do you put in the company name? Just put currently seeking new role. It's going to pop up a company. There's a ton of them out there where other job seekers have done this. It's totally fine. Just put in currently seeking new role or something like that. It does not matter the company that you're attached to. Okay, let me cover a couple of things just to make sure. Let me make sure I have this. Oh, you know what? I think we covered. Let's go on with the questions because I think over the course of this, we've covered the other ones I wanted to cover. Okay. Richard asks, what criteria does LinkedIn Recruiter use to rank some profiles at the top? That is a magical question that I don't think anybody knows. We've tested this a variety of different ways. And the example I'll give you is in the skills section. You know how you have that area where you can do endorsements? We've done things where we've searched like for a certain skill, like SolidWorks. And you would think at the top of the search, it would show the person that has the most endorsements for SolidWorks, or it would show the person that has SolidWorks the most on their profile. It doesn't do either of those things. So I do not know, honestly, and I have not found anybody that can show me facts. Some people say, oh, it's because of this, it's because of this, but every time you ask them for show me where, or when we try to go test it, it never comes out. So I think this is one of those algorithm things that they don't release on purpose because they don't want people to be able to figure it out and have the most coming up at the top. It's frustrating for you, believe it or not, it's just as frustrating for us. Frank Perez asks, are you still recommending to not use creator mode as job seekers? This is a great question, Frank. Okay, so here is originally why I said do not use creator mode as a job seeker. It was because when you switched in creator mode, it required you to switch from the option of connect to follow. And it is better as a job seeker to have more connections than more followers. Why, you ask? Well, let me explain. When you have a connection where you connect and they connect, the default underneath that is follow. So when you connect with somebody and they accept that connection request, it also automatically, unless they go in and choose otherwise, follows you. And then they start seeing your posts in their feed randomized, right? So it's better to have a connection. If you just go out as a job seeker and follow somebody, then they don't necessarily follow you back. Okay, so there's part of it. The other thing is, as a job seeker, and the way that the system currently is, the more connections you have, the better. Now, I know there's people that are like, well, but you should have curated connections and only have a limited amount. I hear what you're saying, but you need to approach LinkedIn different because we know for a fact the algorithms are different. If in LinkedIn, there's two versions of LinkedIn Recruiter. There's LinkedIn Enterprise and there's LinkedIn Staffing and Recruiting. And the Staffing and Recruiting one, if the person is not a first, second, third, or group member connection to the recruiter, they are a locked profile. And each recruiter, each seat on LinkedIn Recruiter is given 30 unlocks per month. At the moment, there is no way for a recruiter to buy more unlocks. So what that means is if you are a locked profile to a recruiter because you're not somehow connected in their network, then the problem is if you're a locked profile and they've used all their unlocked, even though you came up in the search, they can't see anything more than LinkedIn profile. That's all they can see, and they can't pull you up. They can't contact you, anything. Until LinkedIn fixes that, the more connections you have, the better. Now, so in that case, it's better to be on non-creator mode, so the default is to connect. Now, with that being said, LinkedIn is making changes to creator mode. They have not rolled out yet. And part of what they are rolling out in creator mode is it looks like to change that. It also looks like they're going to offer some additional things for those that are on creator mode. So my vote today is still don't be on creator mode. Get as many connections you can so you don't come up as a locked profile. But when those new creator things come out, I will share whether or not I feel like at this point in time you should switch over to creator. I'm going to give you one more caveat of when you should potentially be on creator mode. If you are wanting to be a expert in an area, there was a gentleman who got laid off from, I think it was Disney or Pixar. I think it was Disney, and he has now become a kind of an influencer in his world. He does great posts out there, very valuable data, very well done, and he has built a following in that. That's somebody that should be on creator mode. So if that is part of your side hustle, your multiple tracks, then you may want to do it. Now, for anybody who's thinking they're going to make millions on YouTube and some of these other platforms, it there's lots of people that say and claim that they make millions in all of these dollars. 95% of YouTubers never hit over the 10,000 follower mark. We have been doing this now since COVID, and we're over that mark. So we're one of the 5%. We still, my team and I, we lose money every time we do a video. We lose money every time we do this work because it never comes with enough. Now, granted, we don't have sponsors on our videos. There's ad rolls that they run, that YouTube runs. But I mean, when I tell you it is pennies that you make off YouTube, it still costs us way more than what we get. So if you're thinking that's a side hustle, just go after multiple side hustles, because that's probably not going to be the best income stream that's going to replace your salary. Okay, Frank, that was a really long answer to that question. I hope that was answered for you. Okay, let's go down to Nat. Nat said, I recently started a temp contract role. Now recruiters aren't reaching out to me. Did adding this job to my LinkedIn change where I show up in search results? I still have open to work on. So Nat, I don't think necessarily that it will have changed where you showed up in the search results, but a lot of times if you're a recruiter and you see somebody that just landed a job, you think they're not going to be interested in looking at another job. They're going to think, oh, well, they just haven't turned off their open to work yet, or they just landed. So that may be playing into, I don't have any hard facts to back that up, but I do want to show you something in LinkedIn Recruiter that they're adding more and more on this. Let me show you for Maureen. Okay, on Maureen's profile, when I pull her up, wait. Well, it should show. Just because I want it to show, it's not going to show. Give me one sec. Well, it's not showing just because I want to show you. In the open to work section, and when you're pulling people up, I can't pull up somebody else because I don't want to share their data on the system. We're now getting other information down here. I don't want to show you one without their approval. Yeah, I don't want to risk showing you one that I'm going to pull up somebody's back data on LinkedIn Recruiter. It's showing us some other things down there. It's showing us recently turned on their open to work. It's showing us actively seeking. It's showing us different things. I'll do a video on that. Where you can see part of that? I did a post recently on LinkedIn. If you go back through my posts, that showed you, does being active on LinkedIn help? And I screenshotted it. And I screenshotted just that little bit to be able to show it to you. Actually, I might be able to pull up that screenshot. That it does actually have the ability to influence. Give me 1 second and see if I can pull this up super fast. Stress, trying to pull it up fast. What am I doing here? One more sec. Give me 1 sec. Let's see if I can get this for you so you can see it. But there's new things that they're trying to show us. It's not that one. Hold on. Okay, here it is. I got it. Let me see if you can see this. Aha! Oh, and that is so tiny. There we go. So on the bottom of profiles now, it's showing me things like this: moderate likelihood of interest, open to work closer in your network. This person's active on LinkedIn. That is happening. LinkedIn is trying to look at what you're doing and such. And so if you just landed, it's probably going to adjust that in the interest level. So it might be something that is causing you to get a little bit less connections out. Okay, let's see. Oh, Maureen said, I'm not maxed out. You can connect with me. So feel free to connect with Maureen on LinkedIn. You don't even have to send her a thing. The other thing I will tell you is if you don't want to use one of your invites for her, she probably has more than you. If you send her a message, she can try to go out and connect with you. That's awesome. Frank Perez says that Frank does a lot of work for job seekers. Thank you, Frank, for what you do. The limit of 5 messages was an attempt to cut down on spam accounts, unintended consequences. A way around this is to use memberships in groups until LinkedIn stops that too. Yeah, you can do this through memberships and groups. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay. John Brown has asked, how do you deal with NDA or classified job duties, responsibilities, and accomplishments? Okay, so usually when you have a non-disclosure, it is focused around some type of IP, right? Like you can't say, I was working on this valve actuator for a downhole pump. But what you can say is, I was working on a piece of machinery that will be utilized in some field or some industry. So you're going to have to generalize it out some. It depends how tight your NDA is, right? If you're working on a government contract that there's something that's, got a secret clearance, you're right. You're in trouble. It makes it harder to give that information. And I think your best bet is to share that early on with the people that you're talking to, saying, look, I can talk all about this, but I have to do some of it in generalities. So instead of saying, the name of the product or the exact industry, I'm going to have to change a little bit so I don't violate the NDA. It's a common thing. So NDAs are pretty well, known by recruiters. We're used to dealing with non-competes and IP that we don't want that data. It's something that's going to put, you in jeopardy. So as long as you're upfront with them about it, now you should not have an NDA for the last 10 jobs you have. And there are some times where people are like, oh, I can't discuss the last 5 jobs. And I'm like, well, if you can't discuss the last 5 jobs, I can't get a good baseline as to whether or not I feel like you're a fit for this. If you just tell me you got it, it's not enough. So make sure that you understand your NDA. If it does have a clause on it, which most of them do, like you can't share for a period of time or something like that, especially in non-competes, make sure you're aware of what that time frame is. So as soon as you're able to share more, you do. Okay, here's an FYI for everybody. I love when people share extra help. If you have a tip or a trick that you think would be really helpful to job seekers, let's talk about it here. Please, please, please. And please, we try hard to hit as many people as we can, but it's so much easier if you guys help us. Please share, like, comment, subscribe, all of those different things. It really does help. Okay, let's see. The LinkedIn mobile app does not necessarily sync with your desktop when making changes. Make sure to log out, log in again, and check both items for accuracy. I noticed several discrepancies. That's something I haven't tested, Gary, so I appreciate you sharing that. I will try to put that on our list to see how long that sync is, because it is not something that I've taken a looked at and tested. Okay. What do you think about using AI Chat GPT for interview prep? I recently used it for interview prep to get questions for the interviewers might ask and those I should ask based on the job description. I think it was brilliant of you to do, and you absolutely should do it. Interviews are all about practice, right? The more you can practice, the more you can get your thoughts together, the better. Now, what you don't want to do is, rely on the answers 100% that Chat GPT can give you. But it's really good on, instead of starting from a blank slate of, piece of paper, you can say, okay, well, Chat GPT gave me this answer. Well, that's kind of relates to this experience that I had. So it helps you get started in how your responses are going to be. If you are not using Chat GPT and some of these newer technologies, you are falling behind. And, my goodness, I don't want to learn something new any more than anybody else. Sometimes there's days I'm just like, stop changing everything. But Chat GPT really will make a lot of your life easier. We did do a video on this where it'll show you how to make your resume bullets better with Chat GPT. And we also did one, we did a ton of resumes on Chat GPT, having it create them. And I can tell if your resume came from ChatGPT based on certain things that it put on your resume. So you might want to take a look at that, and that video will show you, because there's certain things that ChatGPT does continuously. So it's a fun watch if you have the time. But good for you, John, for prepping for the interview and using technology like ChatGPT to do it. Okay, let's see. For candidates, would you recommend working with recruiting companies, headhunters, etc.? If so, which ones? 7 years of HR. It's not, again, you want to be available to them. You want them to be able to find you. You want to be able to maybe touch base with them, but don't expect them to find you a job. You just want to be on their radar. They're usually really open to connecting with you. Because you're in HR, we did actually do a video. It's a little bit ago, of the best non-standard job post sites for HR people. We did it for engineers, HR, and a bunch of other roles. What people forget to do is, all these job posting systems cost a fortune. And whichever one you choose to put your money in, you generally don't do LinkedIn and Career Builder and Monster and Dice, and RigZone. You pick, a couple of them, and then you do all your positions in those. So try looking at some non-standard job posting sites. Like, if you're very heavy on LinkedIn and very heavy on Career Builder, go to Dice, even though it's mainly IT focused, and see if there's some HR ones. If you're part of any type of associations or societies, go to their website. Almost all of them have a career page, and think broader than just the top level association. For you in HR, SHRM has a great career center. But did you also know that most of the ones that are in the cities have their own career centers too, that are separate from the SHRM one? Why do they do that? Because it's a money-making thing for them. HR Houston wants you to put a job posting on their site, not just the SHRM site, because then they get the money instead of the top level association. And don't be afraid to look at, well, I'm in Houston, but I'm going to look at the one in New York because maybe they have a remote job. So take some time and look at some of these smaller job posting sites too, that cost a little less, that there might be a dream job out there for you. Okay, let's go to our next one. Here's, thank you for presentation. I wondered, if you're not in the US, how do you use the postcode feature for the country or region you are in? You can't. If you are not in the US, if you didn't start your profile in the US, then when you entered in your primary address, it asked for something different. And so I can't give you guidance because I don't know what country, and we'd have to go in and create one in that country. But it's based on what country version of it that you're using. So they don't have the zip code feature if you're, doing it in France. So it's a little different. So, but if you are outside, you can't use that zip code feature. And I know that's not ideal. Let's see. Oh, there we go. We already did that one. Somebody said that Donna Sardula posted the creator mode is going away. I don't think that's accurate. In fact, they just did an email out saying that they were making creator mode different and giving us more things. So I don't believe that that's 100% accurate. I believe that they're just doing more. Let's see. Somebody else, Room said, do you think adding volunteer on LinkedIn will help job seekers? Absolutely. Add your volunteer work. It's important, though, that you add it in the right space. And let me show you what I mean by that. Let me share my screen again. I'm going to take me out so you can see this a little bit better. And I'm going to hide your question for the moment. When you are adding profile sections, you don't want to put it under your experience section. There are other sections or places that you can add to your profile. And down here under additional, you see this right here? It's add volunteer experience. That's where you want to add that. Why do you want to add it there as opposed to adding it to your experience section? Is because a lot of times it interrupts your experience that's in your career. So you may be doing things like you're an HR person your whole career, but the volunteer work that you're doing is a driver for Habitat to Humanity or a builder for Habitat to Humanity. And that interrupts your career flow. And we also want it not to take over that current thing of your job. We want them to look at what relates to the profession you're doing. So I always recommend you put your volunteer experience down where LinkedIn gives you that space. That was a good question. Thank you. Okay, let's see what else we have. I see a bunch of people are saying Maureen connections. Maureen, you're going to get overloaded with connections tonight. It'll be great. Let's see what else we have. Great. Sandra said, I heard that everyone was getting creator mode. Could you find out on that for sure, please? Because I'm not a creator and not planning to use that feature. You know, I think I have something on that too that I can show you fairly quickly. Let me see if I can get to that really fast while we're still here talking. If you have any other questions, please go ahead and make sure that you put your questions in because our time is starting to tick down and I want to make sure that I can get to anything that you have. No, I'm not going to be able to get to it fast enough. I will make sure they did send a message out though saying that they're changing creator mode and that it is going to be bringing, it is going to be different and they're going to be giving more features. You know, LinkedIn wants people to be on creator mode. They want you to create content for them. They have been relying very heavily lately on AI created content, which is, you see all these top voices on LinkedIn, which I love the idea of it. I really do, because it's a way to go in and get, feedback from a lot of different people on topics. But what LinkedIn did, how they're creating that is they're having AI generate a bunch of things and then having people give their opinions on it. And so I did look to see, well, if they're having AI generate, why can't you have AI generate the answers? It's just not my favorite thing lately that they've done. So I'm just not very pleased with what they're doing with that, with the AI. Now, I do want to also make sure while we have a couple of minutes here, let me go over here into, let's see, here we go. I do want to show you a couple other things on LinkedIn Recruiter as long as we have a couple minutes left. Let me go over to here. Okay, so there are some other things that you may not be aware of that the recruiters can search and look for. And they're important. Whoa, let me get off of that quick. Hold on, let me pull that other one over so I can get that out of there. I would like to not show anybody, but there we go. Okay. When I go down to those other additional search features, the advanced search, okay. You see how there's other things that I can search on, like, for example, spoken language. If a client gives our team a job to work on and they say, gosh, well, in fact, we have one right now, and because their home office is in Korea, they said it would be really nice to have somebody that speaks Korean if that was possible. So that is something that we can go in here and choose that as a spoken language and say, show me if there's any profiles that match these skills I'm putting in this job title, that anybody that speaks any Korean whatsoever. So if you do have any kind of language proficiency, you do want to go ahead and add that in here. Don't just put it as a skill or someplace else, because you want to make sure you're putting it on your profile where you're adding in, because even if you have any proficiency whatsoever, the default when I try to enter something shows as any. So as long as you put something in there, you're probably going to show up, unless I've actually gone to the point of changing what level it is. Another thing that I want you to really consider doing is over here, do you see this thing called fields of study? There's lots of times where there's different people that have all these crazy job titles, and I'm looking for somebody that has a degree in mechanical engineering. And how I find that a lot of times is I can go over into here and say, okay, show me people who graduated specifically in their field of study with mechanical engineering. Boy, I cannot type anymore. The mechanical engineering right here. And then if you have entered that up, it's going to show it. Like, for example, Maureen, her degree is in business administration and management. That's why this is showing here. as showing there's one person in my search with this. So if you have not, when you've entered your degree, put in your field of study, I do recommend that you do that. Also, there are some companies that have a very high commitment to hiring veterans. So if you have military background on your profile where it does have you put that, I do recommend you take the time and go out and do that. Because for those that are targeting veterans that they're trying to hire them in, that is a great way for you to get found. I hope that that all helps as well, getting a chance to see some of the back of that. I did see there was a couple other questions come in. Arum asked, what would you recommend to add in a headline? Great question, Arum. So just so everybody remembers what the headline is, the headline, if we look at Maureen, is this right up here. This Director of Operations, CGL Recruiting, CGL Focus, CGL Engineering. And you get to that on your profile. Let me pull up me, and I'll show you from me. There we go. Here's my profile. When you're up here, you can change that by clicking on this pencil here, and that is where you're going to adjust this headline. Now, this headline, you have a lot of characters, but they don't all show. So once you actually go out there and you create whatever your headline is going to be, make sure you look and see where you've commented a couple places so you see what actually shows. If you are a job seeker, and if like Maureen right now, when we turned on her open to work, every time she does a comment, that open to work banner is going to show. So don't waste time putting in the beginning of your headline here that you're open to work or that you're currently seeking a position. Instead, put information that's going to catch people's attention, like what you do. I am a compensation manager. I am a director of product management. So people get to associate, again, building that brand of your face, you're open to work, and here's what you do. Now, the system will try to default whatever you have in there for a current role. It will try to make you default to putting that current role matching your headline. You don't have to do that. You do have the ability to change it on your own by utilizing that pencil. That was a good question, Arun. Thank you. We do actually have a video on that as well, on the headline. If you want to go out and look at that a little bit more in detail, it does go through that as well. Okay, so Maureen did ask a question about the timing for this and saying, did this work good? Did this not? I appreciate Troy had a good comment here that this time works well, but weekends may be better. I think we will go ahead and try to do one on a weekend. I'm feeling like Saturdays are better than Sundays, but I'd love to hear from a couple of you. Do you think morning is better? Do you think afternoon, night? I don't know if everybody's going to want to sleep in on a Saturday morning or if it would be better to do it then. So if you have any feelings or thoughts on what would be better than that, please put it in the comments so we get a little bit of information in there to try and understand what's kind of the best opportunity there. Let's see. So there's a comment here saying, I'm pivoting into an entry-level project coordinator role and have over 32 years in the telecommunications industry. I was a subject matter expert. Should I feel comfortable asking for more money other than their $60 high end? Okay, so I think it's important to remember where salary bands and salary ranges come from. They don't come from people. The salary range comes from positions. So there's probably for that role some type of salary band that's there. And so can you ask for more than that salary band? You can always ask, but the reality is they're probably not going to go over it because then they get a problem of internal compression. And it's also of how much can they afford to pay for that particular position. Now, the example I'll give you is if you're hiring in for a customer service person and a person comes in and says, yeah, but I have a PhD in psychology, you should pay me more. That the PhD in psychology doesn't necessarily mean that they can afford to pay more for that customer service position or that position is valued more. So where I think if you're trying to fight the battle of high salary or not high salaries, of low salaries, and you're trying to get one brought up higher, bigger companies tend to hold a little tighter to the salary bands than small ones do. And the reason being is because a lot of times with the small companies, you can convince them that you can take on additional duties beyond the role. And it's the role that determines the salary band. Your skills, experience, competencies determine where you fall in that band, but it's the role that determines the band. So if you can convince them to put more things into the role, you should see a higher level salary. Absolutely a better way to go. Okay, let's see. Um, Maureen says she prefers to sleep in on a Saturday morning. So Saturday mornings might be a little difficult. I think we do need to be aware. I see some people put about the Pacific Standard Time versus Central Time that we're on, Eastern Time. So it looks like it would be better to do something not quite so early. So Maureen, you still get to sleep in some. Okay, let's see. Michelle said, if there are multiple roles in a company at different levels, i.e. director and senior manager, where you could be a fit, is it frowned upon or questionable to apply for both? That absolutely makes sense, Michelle. Okay, so it's not always easy to tell the level difference, right? You may see a manager of human resources and a director of human resources, and they both are asking for the same years of experience, and it's just got a couple differences in the job title. It can be challenging to see which one you fit better. In that scenario, I'm okay if you apply for both, if you think they're close enough and you think you would be happy with both. What you don't want to do is, let's say that there is a VP role that you're very interested and qualified for, and you're also applying for a much, much lower individual contributor role that you are obviously overqualified for and obviously are going to be over salary. Like you're applying for something that's got asking for 20 years experience, and you're applying for something that's an entry level HR coordinator role. When you do things like that, then people start to question a little bit more. But if it's a very large company, the reality is it may not even be the same person looking at your resume for the both positions. What generally happens with companies with their applicant tracking systems is roles are assigned to different recruiters. And so sometimes that's geographic. Sometimes they're aligned to business units. Sometimes they're aligned to different levels. Like this person does all the direct labor, this person does all the executives. It's different in every company how that is split up. But there's a lot of times that you think, oh, well, I applied for this HR director. I don't need to apply for these other 4 because they'll see me on this one. You may want to apply for all of them because it may be different people that are doing it. So I hope that helps answer that somewhat for you. Okay, I think that's up for all of our questions and stuff. I appreciate you all hanging with me and spending this time with me and Maureen. We will continue to watch these changes that are going through because, oh my goodness, it seems like LinkedIn's shooting out a lot. Now, because we covered a lot of things in here, we all are also working on re-recording a ton of our videos with all of these changes in smaller snippets. So you don't have to sit on with me for an hour and 45 minutes. Instead, you can watch a 5-minute video, a 10-minute video, and get all of the information you need to make some of these changes. If there are other things that you want us to cover, please always put it on our YouTube channel. If you reach out to just me, I get so many emails and so many LinkedIn messages every day. It's impossible to keep up. And I do have to do my full-time regular job, as is Maureen. But if you do reply on our YouTube channel, it gives us the opportunity for the team and whoever has a second to go out there and reply. So that's always very valuable if you can do that. If you feel like you need one-on-one job seeker assistance, we do that, where we will go one-on-one with you on LinkedIn Recruiter and see exactly for you where you're falling in and out of job searches and help you with all other parts of your job search. You can find more details on that on our CGL Recruiting webpage, cglrecruiting.com, if you go underneath job seeker assistance. Let's see, what else? Is there anything else here? Dun, dun, dun. Wait. Let's see. Nope. I think that's all that I have at this point in time. All right. I think that we are good. Listen, job seekers, I say it all the time, but I really do mean it. You are worthy of a great job, a great career, and most importantly, a great life. This is one of the hardest processes you will ever have to do. You will ever have to do. You are not alone. In addition to us, there's lots of other great people out there trying to help. So keep with it, and we will do our best to get you more details as we can. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.